coming across the Harbour Bridge to North Sydney does, to a little bit of a degree, feel like you're stepping away from a really big metropolitan city to a place that's got a little bit of a suburban flavour. So I think the answer to the question, which I'm kind of getting to, is that we're going to see a lot of change in North Sydney. We're going to see North Sydney evolve and become much more cosmopolitan and much more reflective of all of Australia. The difference between North Sydney now and the CBD on the other side of the Harbour Bridge is palpable. And we'll still see that change. We already see the first clues of that because we're seeing a whole mix of different restaurants and so on. But I think the flavour of the activity, the number of people in the area will change that, and we'll feel much more integrated with the community very soon as that character just evolves, and you can't force that. It just has to take its time. North Sydney's got this very interesting position. It's nearly on the edge of commercial Sydney and residential all around it. So just as it is for all Australian cities, resolving a mixed commercial residential environment is going to be a big change. We've traditionally in Australia had CBDs, as North Sydney was 10 years ago, with very officey type feel, and now we've got residential almost encroaching on that. So it changes the whole character. It makes it much more of a 24-hour life. And North Sydney, to be honest, has been a little bit quiet after 5 o'clock. And with more residential, very much local people working in the area, I'm sure we'll see that change. There are some physical things. At the moment, cutting through the middle of North Sydney partly is a freeway and the Pacific Highway a highway. And how do you consolidate that with a area that's got tall buildings and offices on both sides of the road, residential on both sides of the road, unserviced, unfortunately, at Crow's Nest by trains. So physically, we're going to really have to see it become a much more pedestrian area, so that it has the life and the vibe of a kind of a 24-hour city. You can't have a kind of car characterized suburb that also has life. And I know council are thinking about increasing cycling. Now, at the moment, the huge challenge for the Pacific Highway is that it's a shared road by cars and bicycles, pretty uncomfortably and extremely dangerously. And so I think we'll see a lot of change as we see more pedestrian access and far more cycling access. Well, in the summer, there's the wonderful noodle markets, which are great. I'd love to see those grow and become a really big thing for all of Sydney. At the moment, I think only the lower North Shore and some areas know that much about it. So it'd be great to see night markets and noodle markets and so on. Right here in Crow's Nest, by accident, we've become a cluster of Japanese restaurants. I don't know how that happens, but it's a bit of the old shoe shop principle. Once you've got 3 or 4 Japanese restaurants, the 5th one's going to do that much better, because you know that if you go to that area, there's a lot of great and competitive Japanese restaurants in the area. Yeah, what we need to break down is this sense that as you go from one suburb to another, everything changes, and I'm sure we're going to see all that mould into a much more mixed society. I love walking down the street and hearing lots of different languages and seeing lots of different cultures, and I can see North Sydney becoming much more like that, as are many other suburbs of Sydney.
Matt Balogh, CEO of McNair Ingenuity Research, thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to watching North Sydney change.